Good evening, everyone. How are you? I want to first say thank you so much for coming. It elates my heart to see that that you all came out and that this was of an importance to you to discuss this issue. I am Robert Harrell. I serve as the executive director of the I Love Me Foundation, and we are an organization that solely focuses on addressing sexual and domestic abuse among LGBT survivors. We had a meeting as a board, and we discussed that the importance of some of the issues that were going on under the Trump administration, in particular when it came down to budget cuts, because we would be one of those organizations that would be affected under the grant of the Violence Against Women Act. And so we decided that there were other like-minded people that had concerns, and we wanted to provide a space and an area for you all to address those concerns and to come up with viable solutions to those concerns. We're going to do a change in the program. I do apologize that we did start a little late. We are going to start our program. We're going to move things around with Dave Garcia, the Director of Policy from the Los Angeles LGBT Center. He's coming to talk to us about the 100 Days in Me initiative.
Okay, any question and answers? Hi, everybody. Whoa. How are you all? So I am going to talk about 100 Days in Me, but I also want to just touch on, I think, some of the major concerns. Seems like every time my phone goes off, I am hit with another Trump disaster today and all week. And I'm sure you all are kind of feeling the same thing. But I think there are some things that we need to keep an eye on. And the first is the First Amendment Defense Act. So the First Amendment Defense Act will make it legal to discriminate against the LGBT community as long as you say it's based on your sincerely held religious or moral beliefs. This is what Mike Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, put into place in Indiana, and this will make it the law of the land, and that's coming down the pipe. We will have to fight that. It's coming. And I think that we need to pay very close attention to Trump's immigration policies. He says that he wants to deport the undocumented criminal. But we need to be really careful about what that means when he says the criminal. Because that could be a busted taillight. It could be a minor drug offense. And I want to caution all of us that when we talk about things like DACA, the Deferred Action Children's Program, I don't want us to get into a place where we say, okay, well, all those DACA recipients, they're going to be safe, so we're okay. But anybody with a criminal record, they can be deported. Because criminal record to this administration could mean many different things. And I think that they're trying to divide us in the same way that Planned Parenthood is about to have 40% of their federal funding taken away by this administration. And the LGBT community cannot be in a position where we say, well, that's Planned Parenthood over there. That's going to get 40% taken away. Because it will be us next. And if we don't come together in coalitions of progressive partners, we're going to lose, in my opinion. And so it's not a threat about Planned Parenthood or immigration or the undocumented criminal. It's us. It's what we all believe in. If we don't do it together, we're going to get our ass kicked. So yeah, I'm here to talk about the 100 Days in Me campaign. But I think it's far beyond that. The 100 Days in Me campaign is what the center's trying to do so that we can keep you educated, so that we can say, okay, well, today, here's what craziness came out of Washington, D.C., because it's every day. So we want to educate you on issues like the First Amendment Defense Act, for example. Or the transgender case that's about to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. I don't know if you're familiar with this case, but it will, you guys, Jeff Sessions is going to be our next Attorney General. I don't think we can stop that nomination. I don't think there's a lot of nominations that we can stop. But Sessions is a homophobic asshole. He doesn't like gay people at all. And it was the Obama administration's Justice Department who said, in their opinion, that transgender issues such as the bathroom stuff that I'm spending far too much time at my job, that sex discrimination protects the transgender community, that sex discrimination protects the LGBT community, that you can't be fired, even in Michigan where I'm from, where there's no protections for us. But you can't be fired under the Obama Justice Department because in their opinion, sexual orientation was sex discrimination. Jeff Sessions will not have the same opinion, and that was an executive order by the President Obama. So trust me when I tell you, Sessions is going to pull the rug out from that. That won't be his opinion. In this case that's about to go before the Supreme Court, the transgender case, will likely determine just how far sex discrimination can be applied across the country for us, the LGBT community, and especially the T community. So we got, I think they say Wednesday or Thursday, they're going to announce their Supreme Court justice. Trump already said when he was running for office, he had a list of people that he was going to choose from. Every single one of them is worse than Scalia. I would rather keep it 4-4 right now for the next 4 years. I mean, hey, they did it to us. Obama had every right to appoint a Supreme Court justice, and they held it up for a year. Well, fine. Let's hold it up for 4 years. Because 4-4 is better than what we're going to get, in my opinion. And so things like the 100 Days in Me campaign, you can go there, you can learn about these issues, you can see what's going on all of these issues, women's rights, immigration, the ACA, for crying out loud, the Affordable Care Act. The center, as you guys know, is a federally qualified health care center. People go to see their doctors there. They go and get their medicine there, right? The HIV community, the positive community, they come there. Ryan White's in trouble. A lot of our clients are on the Affordable Care Act. You pull out the rug from the Affordable Care Act, all of those clients, those positive, let's just talk about the positives for a second. Those HIV positive clients are going to have to go back to Ryan White. But if the president cuts the entire budget, except for, of course, the military, all discretionary funding by 30%, that's the biggest threat to all of us. Everything that I just said about the First Amendment Defense Act and all this stuff that I talked about, the biggest threat is the across-the-board cut in discretionary funding by this administration. Because that will cut all social services, all of it, Ryan White included. The AIDS Drug Assistance Program, ADAP, is a part of that. So more than fighting Donald Trump, we might want to consider strengthening the backbones of every single Democrat in the U.S. Senate. Because some of this stuff is going to take 60 votes. Now, some of the ACA stuff, I know, I get it, right? With the budget process of reconciliation, they're only going to need 51 votes, and they can take away the mandate for ACA. They can try to chip away at it. But things like Ryan White, that's going to take more than that. So we got to strengthen the Democrats. We got to let them know, look, you guys, man, you are the front line of this battle. You cannot fold, Democrat. And so at the center, we have the leadership lab that goes door to door and knocks on doors and tries to reduce prejudice against the LGBT community, especially the T community. Well, we're going to start asking them to start calling places like Maine and my, unfortunately, home state of Michigan that went red this year, and getting those senators to make sure that they don't fold under this administration. All of these things that I'm talking to you about, we're talking about at this website, 100daysinme.org at the center. So you can get involved, you can sign up, you can get, you can either just be informed or you can come knock on doors. There's a lot of things that you can do just by going here. Now it's new, it's just the first 100 days and it's going to evolve because it's not going to go away after 100 days. We just wanted a response to the Republican onslaught in their first 100 days. And so this is our response to them. I know that's a lot of bad news. What I will say, too, back in Michigan a long time ago, around the time Matthew Shepard was killed, I was coaching basketball and baseball and working in the school district. And before GSAs, gay straight alliances that are so familiar to all of us now, that language now, back then it wasn't familiar, especially in the Midwest. I came out at the same time that these young people were being beat up and dropping out of school, the school that I graduated from, the school that I was coaching for. And they needed help, and they asked me for help. They didn't know I was gay. I wasn't out publicly. So I came out with them, and I was like, you know what? Be proud of who you are. I'm going to do this with you. We can do this together, and we're going to start an after-school support group. We don't know what we're going to call it. The superintendent was like, hell no. Last year, he was going to retire after that year, and I got fired. I never coached again. Lost my apartment, lost my truck. It was a really difficult time, but it made me stronger. I wouldn't be here before you. I wouldn't be the policy director of the largest LGBT organization in the entire world, your LGBT center here in Los Angeles. It's twice the size of the HRC. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone through that trial. And that pales in comparison to the HIV/AIDS crisis. We've been here before. We've faced down assholes before. Reagan's communications director, Buchanan, called AIDS nature's revenge against the gay community. Let's not forget those days. So it's not going to be easy. These waters are going to be rough. But this isn't anything that we haven't faced before. And we have always won because we are on the right side of history, because we do it together and in coalition. That's how we're going to do it this time. But it's not going to be easy. Sometimes you need a common enemy to stop eating our own and fighting amongst each other, to circle the wagons and fight back. And I think that's what we face today. But we'll do it, and we're going to win. And the youth are on our side. So check out the website, try to get involved, send it to your friends. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we're going to win. We're going to win. Does anybody have any questions at all before I sit down or sneak out? It is. It's on your, there's pens back there if you guys want to grab a pen on your way out. I believe it's 100daysinme.org, and you can sign up there and get updates. And we're updating, this week was the ACA. Next week is Betsy DeVos and the Department of Education. I'm from Michigan. The DeVos family gave a lot of money for anti-LGBT. Did you guys know that Betsy DeVos's family, of course, has given millions, right? They're the Amway family, like, buy some shampoo family. So they're the Amway family. But her brother was the founder of Blackwater. Blackwater's, and his last name is Prince. Blackwater's foundation, the Prince Foundation, has given $6 million to focus on the family, and another $8 million to the Family Research. What's it, the Family? Yes, the Family Research Council. Yeah, another huge anti-LGBT organization. So that's who's going to be our next Secretary of the Department of Education. Now, we might be able to win one of these battles with the appointments. I don't know. I don't know if we can win that. I don't know. And even if we did, say, defeat Betsy DeVos, is the next nomination going to be any better? Probably not. But I think we can win on the First Amendment Defense Act because they're going to need 60 votes for that. And I don't think they have the Democrats. And I think that we can really put up a hell of a fight on the Supreme Court nomination and have to do that. At least to the point that we get someone a little more moderate than who they're going to elect right off the bat. So I do think there are battles that we can win. The First Amendment Defense Act? Yeah, well, so for example, the president, I keep calling him the president because he was my president, Obama. Obama signed an executive order making it illegal for any government contractor or subcontractor to discriminate against the LGBT community. So if you had a government contract or you were a subcontractor of a government contract, you had to have LGBT protections, and transgender people could use whatever the hell bathroom they want to use. That was spelled out in the language. But that was an executive order, okay? That was our president, Obama. That's not law. So Trump is likely going to take that away. He'll make his own executive order. And even if the First Amendment Defense Act doesn't pass across the nation as a law, these religious exemptions are the next battlefield for our community. Right now, do you guys know that right now, over 100 universities have filed for a Title IX exemption? So that means after the Hobby Lobby decision, they have filed for a Title IX exemption, and they have been granted a Title IX exemption, and they are already, before Trump was ever elected, kicking out LGBT students, pregnant students, anybody that goes against their moral code. Now, granted, these are mostly Christian universities, but it's already happening now. It's only going to get worse, this notion of religious exemptions and religious exercise. It is the next battlefield. It is the next marriage fight. It's a really good question, and in some ways, we have more to lose now, because your Los Angeles LGBT Center's budget is about almost $100 million annual budget. 600 employees, 8 facilities, and most of you know we're trying to build the new one for affordable housing for seniors, affordable housing for youth together across from the village. Almost 80% of that funding is federal funds. The China program, that's in my department, where 2 cohorts come from China every year, and they learn about nonprofit enterprise, and then they learn about fund development and marketing and all that stuff, and they go back to China. The first LGBT center in China was one of those graduates. The first AIDS walk on the Great Wall of China was one of our graduates. That's all State Department funding. So number 1, it's China. Number 2, it's LGBT. And now you've got the head of ExxonMobil that's going to run the State Department. That's one example that is not as important as the HHS, Health and Human Services, where you have Price, who is very homophobic and anti-LGBT. So the center's funding in our Health and Human Services, our own, the mental health programs, when you go to see your doctors, all of it is in jeopardy. So yes, we are trying very hard to figure out ways to make sure that we're secure, but it's hard for individual donors, although we have more, for any LGBT organization in the country, we have more individual donors, but it's hard to make up that kind of federal funding. It's really hard. Like, you all know the AIDS ride brings in millions of dollars, but it would have to be 10 times the size that it is now to try to make up those kind of funds. So we're trying to figure it out. We are being pretty creative, and we're hoping that it's not going to be as bad as it might be. But I don't have an answer for you. None of us at the center have an answer. We're just trying really hard to make sure that and there are some people that say, just keep your head down. Keep your head down. Don't Dave Garcia go out there and make all these comments about Trump, because then they're going to go after those government grants. And Lori Jean and Daryl and myself and all of us in leadership there say, you know what? They're going to do it anyway. They're going to do it anyway. If anybody thinks that they're not coming after the LGBT community, you're wrong. So we have always been able to be vocal and fight against this stuff. We're not gonna stop now, and we're not gonna try to hide and say, well, maybe they won't see this grant over here, because they will. They will. Tom Price for HHS, he has tried for years to cut funding for LGBT folks and to use funds for reparative therapy, right? Mike Pence tried in his own state to cut funding for Ryan White and use that funding for reparative therapy. And he tried to do that for years. So we're under no illusion that by putting our head under the blanket that they'll not see us. So we have to be vocal. And I don't know what's going to happen. All I know is that we're going to have to pull together more than ever to try to make sure that we protect the gains that we've made in the last 8 years especially, and even before that. You're certainly going to hear about it, and this is part of the website. You know, this whole effort is us trying to, as fast as we can, tell everybody what's going on. So to educate everybody. And I don't know, even if we did, I don't know if we can make up those kind of dollars, but we can try. And West Hollywood could play a role in that, and all of us are going to have to play a role in that. Yeah. Okay. I have 3 minutes, I'm being told, so does anybody have any other questions? Sir. Yeah, we can certainly try. The Supreme Court's going to take 60 votes, so we can filibuster. Because they have 4 years. You know, it's one thing to hold up our president. I keep doing that. I know. I miss him. It's one thing to hold up Obama for a year, which was bad enough. It's also very difficult to do that for 4 years, especially when you're not in the majority. So, right, they wouldn't let Merrick come to a vote. Well, they're in the majority of the Senate and the House, so the Senate's going to be able to allow a vote to come forward, right? So we would have to do that every time a vote comes forward. Now, I suspect that their first person is going to be pretty bad. And we're going to go after that person. We're going to say, try again. And hopefully the second person, or maybe it'll take the third person, to be a little more moderate. But it's not just this one, right? I mean, Kennedy's talking about retiring. So, I mean, the notorious RBG is, how old is she now? I mean, I just sent her an email and I was like, you need a kidney, let me know. I will gladly, whatever it takes for you to stay right where you're at. But there's some, you know, they're not young on our side there. So Trump could have 2. He could have 3. I mean, that's no bueno. That's right. It's true. All over the country. Yeah, and we don't have any power right now, so they'll bring all of them to a vote. The youth? I mean, that's the question for the whole room. Let's not forget, folks, that frustrating as it is, 40% of those eligible to vote did not vote. Now, the reasons for that, part of that is Republicans continue to make it harder for people to vote for obvious reasons. But the reality is 40% didn't vote. So of the 60% that did vote, Trump got, 26%? Hillary got more. 3 million more votes, more of a percentage. So this president was elected by about 26% of the voting population. So that doesn't include anybody 18 or younger. So he's in power, but I don't believe that the majority of this country support him. I don't believe it. I mean, we had the largest protest in U.S. history in the Women's March. The largest in the history of our nation, unless you listen to Fox News or Trump, in which case 12 people showed up. But it was the largest in U.S. history. So I take some solace in that. And there were a lot of young people marching. And maybe that's what it's going to take, because it's not just young people. A lot of people didn't vote. And I hope that we're able to put a candidate forward that can galvanize people that believe in LGBT equality and women's rights and immigrant rights and health care for all. Since, I'm from a C3 and I can't talk about parties, I hope whoever it is believes in those things, whatever party they're from. Any other questions? Sir. Yeah. It's a really good question. So not to get too in the weeds, but right now our corporate tax is at about 33%, 34%. Trump wants it to come down to 15%. I don't think he's going to get it down there, but even if it was 25%, that is going to make a big difference in affordable housing tax credits. Well, those affordable housing tax credits are one of the big impetuses to our new building that's being built across from the village for affordable housing. So if that corporate tax rate goes down, then those affordable tax rates, those credits are less attractive to the builder. About as simple as I can put it, and I'm not a tax guy. But that's important for us at the center, for example. So hopefully we can ink those deals and that they'll be solidified, at least for that campus, as we move forward on a potentially $80 million facility, right? But if that doesn't happen, for example, what can West Hollywood do to step in and help the center? I don't know the answer to that, but these are the kind of collaborations that we are going to have to talk about to make sure that, because we're not going to stop building that building. And there are many reasons for that. First and foremost, people that gave money to build that building gave it for a capital campaign. And that's where it has to go. You can't just take that money and say, okay, well, now that Trump's in and we have rocky waters ahead, we should take that money and put it into programming. You can't legally you can't do that. People gave it for the building. Okay, so there's that. And then Trump's not going to stop us, and not just Trump, the Congress is not going to stop us. Okay, I'm sorry. They're not going to stop us from building the damn building. They're not going to do it. We've had rougher waters before. We're going to continue to build this building. The property that we already bought is worth twice as much from when we bought it. So that itself is good for our community. And even if we don't fill every room of that building right as it's built, those rooms will be filled. That property will be important. And it will still be important for this community for us to own that building in Hollywood. Financially, it's a good investment. And he's not going to stop us from building the largest affordable housing unit for seniors and youth in our city. So, yes, I think there are partnerships to be made if we take a hit like that, but we're not stopping.
All right.
Okay, I'm out. Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm in trouble. I got in trouble.